Okay, so good morning, or good day, or good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to this live webinar called Understand How to Accelerate Product and Software Development with Modern ALM. So this is delivered to you by Siemens PLM. And in today's webinar, I can see we have participants from the UK, Italy, France, Germany, and also from the Nordic countries. So again, very welcome to all of you. So my name is Peter Asp and I work as a pre-sales consultant within Siemens PLM and specifically with Polarion in the Nordic region. So I'm hosting this webinar and we are broadcasting live from Sweden. We are recording this webinar and it will be published and available for download on the Siemens Polarion website under Events and Resources /recorded webinars shortly after the session has ended. If you have any technical problems, please use the chat window to contact us and we'll try to support you. At the end, there is a Q&A session where we will try to answer as many questions as we have time for. You can use the same chat window to submit your questions and you can submit them during the session, but we will answer the questions at the end. So the presenter of today's webinar is Pasi Ahola. Pasi is the founder and managing director of Taipova Consulting, which is a Siemens PLM partner in the Nordic countries. Pasi has worked with the Polarion application lifecycle management solution since 2009 and has advised a number of global companies including Sandvik, Danfoss, De Laval, Planmeca, and Cavocare. His background as a product and software development professional goes back 20 years. Pasi has held courses in the field of requirements engineering, specializing in structuring information within systems engineering. So Taipova's mission is to help other professionals ease their daily R&D work, making it more efficient and also fun. So with that said, I'd like to hand over to the main speaker. Over to you, Pasi.
Thank you very much, Peter, for the nice introduction. Hello. From my behalf, let me say a couple of words about Taipova before we start. We've been in operation 6 years, concentrating on application lifecycle management. We have Polarion ALM in our product offering, and we are the only Siemens PLM Smart Expert partner for Polarion in the Nordic countries region. What else? We provide training and consulting around ALM related topics like requirements engineering and test management. Currently we have 6 people, 4 of them are in Finland and 2 in Sweden. I would like to show some of our customers so that you get a feeling of our background and our experience. So most of our customers are industrial companies who are combining physical products and software, and most of them are, or some of them are, working in regulated environments such as medical devices, automotive, etc. And it's important for them to fulfill certain requirements and to be able to show evidence of the process and that the requirements are fulfilled. And I would also like to mention that at the bottom of our page there's a link to our LinkedIn page. So if you are interested in our newsfeed, just click here and go to our LinkedIn page and just follow us, and you'll get updates what we're doing. This agenda is to give you an overview of what we are doing today. Most of the time we'll spend on actual demo with the Polarion ALM application. It will be based on 5 use cases that I will introduce later. So it's not a very technical tool presentation itself. So if you come up with some questions about the technical things about the Polarion tool, just please place them in the chat and we'll try to answer them. I'd like to emphasize that your questions are very important. So if we don't have time to answer all of them, we'll get back to you later on. What is Polarion ALM? Start by introducing the process areas that are supported by Polarion. Here you see the most usual process areas that are covered with this tool. The application lifecycle management itself is a bit problematic term. It was invented by some technology analysts back in the year 2000 or something. It was long before any iPhones or apps or that sort of stuff existed, so it certainly doesn't mean any of those. The application relates to, yes, it relates to a computer program of some kind. It comes from the software engineering background. However, it's important to realize that the ALM is not only about software. It's more of any sort of abstract information that is related to products or systems. For requirements, it means user needs, functionality they might want to have, requirements coming from various stakeholders, like regulatory requirements, etc. And of course, down the line there are some software requirements as well. For test and quality management, it means all the actions that are needed to verify and validate against the requirements. In general, in this picture, these red circles emphasize the scope for today, and Polarion is capable much more than these process areas displayed on this page. We'll not talk about a lot of that today, but important for you to realize that it's capable of supporting many workflow-based processes such as CAPA, meaning corrective and preventive actions. And we'll talk about a lot about collaboration and traceability during the demo today. Why we think that this webinar might be useful for you starts with the question: why on earth do we talk about just about a tool if you want to accelerate product development? Yeah, it really comes down to this question, and we do believe that the process comes first. You should start by thinking of your needs for the ways of working. However, processes are implemented with and supported by tools. Your tools that will have an effect how you work in practice. The final process is a combination of process needs and its implementation with the tools you have. So therefore it's important to realize what limitations do you have with your current tool set and how you actually work. What possibilities are there in tools with, in general, something that you couldn't even think of. Creating a final way of working is iteration, taking both your process needs and your tool set into account. Where is the potential to accelerate? We'll start exploring that, looking at some requirement specification things first. When talking about requirements management, I'd like to introduce something that we at Taipava call requirement dimensions. What does that mean? Why do we specify requirements in the first place? To get an understanding of the content of the product, what it's all about, what it does, why does it exist, things like that. But it's also a basis for everything that we do in engineering projects in order to get the product realized. The doing part drives all our actions in product development. Looking closer at these doing things, they can be organized in different levels. SAFe, meaning the Scaled Agile Framework, speaks about portfolio, program and team levels. So the things are broken down for the purposes of putting them into releases or implementation teams, to break them to different bits and pieces suitable for this purpose, and they are prioritized to get them aligned in the time perspective. So Usually this is done by having lists of items to do. In the agile way, they are organized into backlogs, um, which are prioritized, and in the end, they are really broken down into pieces to make this kind of process possible. There's quite a little structure built on except links between these different levels of items. When we look at the content part then, we see some different dimensions. The topmost presented here, the conceptual level, it's quite similar to the right-hand side level. But further down, if we think of these product structure dimensions, we often want to specify requirements, for example, for different functionalities or even create functional specifications. We need to see how logical or physical components are specified. For example, different functionalities like transmission control or fault management or stuff like that. Logical components would be in systems or platforms. And different engineering disciplines want to have their picture as well. So that introduces some more dimensions here. And on top of that, we need to specify the information into more levels of detail when we go further. So organizing our requirement information so that it serves all these different dimensions, it's actually not a very simple thing to do. On top of that, if we think of different audiences, or for example our customers, they just don't want to see lists of things to do, but they want to get a big picture of what they will get. And for these many purposes, needs for organizing our information, often documents are used. Although there are some project management or agile in place, we'll still use specification documents for many purposes. Or PowerPoint or Excel lists, no matter what the format is, but there are various files around. And very often these files or documents are used to communicate and collaborate and exchange information, for example with the stakeholders. And documents, why not? It's a very good format, easy to read, people can understand it, they are organized logically, they have a beginning and the end, it contains a story. So what I'm saying is that using backlogs or agile would be wrong or bad. Quite the opposite. And also one thing to remember is that although having specifications or doing that, you don't have to specify everything up front. What I'm trying to say is that there are many things that you need to take into account, many sides to this story of specifying requirements. Many different dimensions to think about, and the doing part is only one of them. And for the other reasons, quite often documents are used. So where and why is the potential to improve product and development processes? This topic also has something to do with the documents that we introduced before. Here are the classic levels of systems engineering, and there are teams, different people working on these different levels. They might have their own methodologies and tools. At the lowest level, there in the component level, there certainly are different engineering disciplines like mechanics, electronics, hardware, software, things like that. As explained earlier, there are documents extensively used for different kinds of specifications. This information between these levels should be traced, but it's very difficult with documents. It can be even very hard to find those documents for different teams, to get their latest versions or to know when they're updated, what was changed, to really have the latest version. Those are kind of the questions that pop up. It seems that somehow there are walls between these levels of organization and having information. They're really blocked from each other, and a document is an important factor here, but also the teams might have their own methodologies, like said, and it's difficult to collaborate and exchange information. On the right-hand side of the V model, there's the quality assurance. They are also somewhat isolated of each other, having their own plans and test specification and reports and that kind of stuff. Most importantly, they would like to trace to the requirements. Their work is verifying and validating against the requirements. Even those connections are often blocked, not on purpose, but again, tracing between documents is difficult, or it's a manual process. And then there might be some tools in place that don't have natural connections. On the very tip of the V model, there is the implementation and project management. Here again, different tools and methodologies are used, at least for the different engineering disciplines. In some cases, there's no connection from this project management to the content, or at least to the specification documents. So it's a manual process once again. However, if we think of the software development, meaning the software engineering discipline, they often have epics and user stories in place, some agile development methodology in use, unit testing connected, nice here. However, they still come up with some documents very often. Specification documents that are somewhere else. And the testing professionals might have their own test plans, possibly other documents too. They can be in wiki pages, not in a document format, but other formats, but still it's very difficult to have a natural connection between these documents to the kind of the implementation management process that they have. So to conclude our introduction, I leave you this with this picture. I won't go through all of these, but I think you can find some of these things familiar to you. And in the coming presentation, we hope to give you some ideas and insight how we can ease at least some of these pains. Getting towards our demo, this picture shows you an overview where our use cases are located when thinking of this simplified V model that we use today. First, we'll get a short introduction into Polarion's user interface and some terminology. Then we'll look at how we can collaborate with customer requirements. Then derive some more detailed requirements out of those, meaning software features in this case, planning them into some plans for implementation, looking at how to do some quality assurance actions to validate customer requirements, and then finally getting the overall reporting visibility on all of these things. So let's switch to Polarion application, which is a fully web-based solution. So I'm accessing this with my Chrome browser. Couple of words about the user interface before we go on. Here on the left-hand side, you see this panel, which is called the navigation panel. Here on the top, we see our active project, which in this case is an autonomous lawn mower. That's our imaginary project for today. Here on the top, we have some of selected favorite shortcuts for this project. And here we have the basic functionalities of Polarion, our fundamental functionalities. And it works so that if you choose something here, the right hand side, so-called work area, changes accordingly. For example, here are the test runs that have been conducted in this project, and going back to work items shows the list of work items. Some terminology. This work item really is a basic object in Polarion. There can be different types of these work items. For example, these ones are used in this demo project. You can customize these as you want simply by configuring Polarion system according to your own process or ways of working. Then another piece of object which is really important in Polarion is document. For example, here we see some of the documents that are created in this project. And for our demo, we use this project. We are sort of thinking that we are representing an engineering house, and we are developing this new generation of autonomous lawn moving robot for an OEM. And we can also look at this or have this open, this sort of a document which also shows the overview of our use cases so that we can follow where we are. Without any further ado, let's go to the first use case, look at collaboration with the customer. For that, I open this customer requirement specification here, and I think this view needs some explaining first. So this is a document in Polarion, also called a live doc. This is very much similar to Word, but there are some differences, which we'll see in a minute. So this document contains headings, contents, pictures, diagrams, tables, so forth. But the one special thing in here, except that you can access this online with a web browser, is that it also contains these objects, work items. For example, this is one. We can open that to see the details, the kind of the database view of the work item. We can see that this is a customer requirement that has been approved. There's a description that is shown in the document and lots of other things that we can have here. This document, first of all, when it's online here in the browser, basically we can collaborate with this document with our customer online with this tool, provided that we grant access to this customer of ours into this tool. So they can modify the document here, or they can provide comments. We see some of the comments that have been provided earlier, just my example comments that I did earlier, for example here and here. Or we can facilitate the kind of the formal approval, review and approval process here within this tool if you want to do that. But there's also one option which I'm going to show you today. If we want to collaborate with the customer, but we don't want to let them into the system or let them edit this document directly. We can export this document into a Word format here, like this, and send that to the customer and let them edit the document format, which looks like this. For example, they can provide their comments here in the Word document format. Let's say that they want to have some more things. For example, they enter a comment here that that they need to have this kind of thing on the moving unit, a requirement that says that plates shall stop if hitting something hard. That was kind of missed by our specification. So having that comment there, I'll just save this to my desktop here. And well, when we have received the documents from the customer, we can import it back to Polarion. And to see what was then changed, it's very practical that Polarion comes with a full version history, so we can take a look at the history and see the changes, what was done, do a comparison, and see that yes, actually there is a comment here. Nothing more added or changed in the document import. So to look at the comments, what the customer had, I will actually filter out the already resolved comments and see only the ones that are kind of remaining. And this is the comment. Okay, yeah, I need to specify something more, so I will just add a requirement there because it makes sense. I'll just name it like this. Let's do this kind of a title for the requirement and give some specification. Blade must be turned off if the blades hit something hard, like this. Okay, let's save our document here, and that's there, the new requirement. That actually the idea for that came from the customer, and then we can send this document all over to the customer. They can prioritize between these requirements, or they can even add some text if you allow, or if we just want to show them at what we did, we can also export this to PDF. Okay, going back to the overview. So that was a very brief coverage on this use case, and let's go to the second one, how to derive further requirements based on the customer requirements. For that purpose, we have this customer requirement specification as our input, and let's also open the software requirement specification. And I will actually open that so that I will have these two windows side by side, these two documents in Polarion. So we have the customer requirement specification here on the left hand side, software requirements here on the right hand side. And looking at the okay, if we further want to see what was changed there, we can go and see about the history, do a comparison again, see that which work item. Okay, this was the one that was added, blades fast stop on impact. So okay, sorry for that. So it's here. So we should do something in the software requirement specification also for that. So let's add another requirement here saying that so the controlling software should stop the blades on impact, and let's be more specific. If the impact sensor gives a reading above, let's say 200 newtons or something, then stop the blades immediately, like that. Okay, we have that there, and now Of course, we want to make it clear that this new software requirement comes from the customer requirement. It refines that, so we create this link by this kind of quick linking procedure in Polarion. So there is a link now, and just saving that into the document, and we can also see that the link is formed by looking at the properties of the work item here. We see that, okay, yeah, there's a link to this customer requirement, and for the easy linking purposes, we have also provided this kind of automatic traceability table here on this document, so that we can see that the whole traceability between the items of this document upstream to the customer requirements, and also downstream to testing and task management. We can also see the links in this kind of a tree view. In some cases that might be very, actually I'll select it from here, customer requirement tree. So showing the customer requirements and their relations, or the kind of the lower level requirements that refine them. And we see the new requirement here that came from the customer, and then our refinement on that. So I'd also like to mention that although we are using documents, these live docs, extensively in our demo, it's important to realize that you can also do things without the documents in Polarion. For example, if we are to just refine this requirement and we don't care to put that into a document, we can do that. Just pressing the plus sign here and creating a software feature that defines this customer requirement, and we can then enter the new software feature here. But I won't do this at this demo. So going back to the overview to see where we are, we derived further requirements based on the customer requirements, and then we go on to planning the implementation. For that purpose, I open this plans section here in Polarion, and now the planning in Polarion works so that we can have different kinds of, or different types of plans. For example, here we have product releases, these two, and then we have software sprints or software iterations, and then we have some sort of sub-plans to control the hardware or mechanic part of the product. And we could have more levels than 2 levels here in the project sort of management view here, but for simplicity we have kept to 2 levels in this demonstration. This planning part, we start by looking at the backlog of the software features. This shows a prioritized list of our features, and we see that this is the one that we actually created just minutes ago. We would like to assign some work to be done, so estimate for that, and also put that it's approved, like that. And the main reason for this backlog or this prioritization view is that we can really drag and drop the order of these items according to the importance. And so if I think this is the most important thing to in our backlog to do next, I'll just drag it here in the top and save, and we have the backlog now prioritized. Then looking at the plans, I would like to include this new thing in our product release version 1, and it indeed it seems that it's not there. Some of the other things are there. But I can add this new software feature to this product release. So I'll just add it here, and you saw that these numbers changed here accordingly. So I'll just save that. So I have now a bit more content in my plan. And of course, also I would like to make that part of the first software sprint that we are having actually. Here. So let's also add the software feature there to be implemented like that. Now we have our planning done. How to manage the actual implementation and monitor that then. For that purpose, I'll switch to a different view, looking at the software sprint in this kind of a plan board view. So this shows all the important metrics of our plan in real time. It shows the start date and end date and the content that has been planned. Now in this case there are software features, and this plan board also shows some of the tasks below these items, if any. So it shows here on the graph that I just added 10 units of more work into this plan. So this curve goes up, and if I, for example, let's see, I complete this one here, saying that it's done, this item, and also I'd like to then conclude that this software feature is done. I can do that by saying, okay, yeah, it's done. We could also have that happen automatically, so that the automatic workflow would put this automatically into done status when the last or the only one task in this case gets closed. Just pressing refresh on this report so that we can see that the graph, we completed 20 units of the of work, so this graph actually now goes down, reflecting the real-time status of the plan. So we could also control other things than software. For example, this Proto1 plan contains other things than software features. So they are things for the mechanics or hardware people to do, and we can basically manage the things in the same way, or we can employ a different methodology for this plan, or a different time frame if the work phases are much longer than in software. We can have that. So basically we can configure the planning according to the process that different teams and different parts of the organizations use. Looking at that webinar overview, we are now here having that completed. I would next like to go to this use case 4, seeing how to validate the customer requirements. Just opening the customer requirement specification as the input again, and then we have something called customer acceptance test specification here. And this test specification is yes, it's another live doc, so it can be used for specifying tests or other verification or validation procedures or protocols. Here we have sort of manual testing for the customer requirements to fulfill, or actually to show evidence for our customer that we have implemented the right requirements in the right way to have the intended use for the machine. We should probably add another test case to cover this new requirement here. So we'll do that in a similar way that we did before for the software specification. So let's have these documents side by side again here, and let's add another test case here. Just like that. Let's have a title for that. And let's specify some test protocol for that. Plate, impact, run. So if we have some rules available, we can use those as testing subject. Yeah, and the plate should stop on impact. So let's save that, then do a link again between these test cases, or this test case and the new requirement, like that. And to check the whole traceability, we can do the check here that we have this new test case here, and yeah, it has the link to the parent requirement. How to conduct the actual validation or testing procedure then with Polarion. We go to test runs, which shows the actual executions of tests. Here we create another field testing, or actually yeah, there's something that I forgot to do. Sorry. So go back to the customer acceptance test document again. We'll just select that this new test here is for field testing, and let's also say that it's approved. Yeah, like that. Yeah, now we have that. Let's create another field test. Let's call it field test 2 and create that. And now automatically Polarion picked up 9 test cases to be executed with this test run. To execute those tests, I'll just go here, and this list lets us to complete these tests manually here, clicking through the test protocols and marking the different steps, and also having a verdict for the whole test case. Let's have this is passed. Let's do a failure here. Let's say that the for some reason this step fails, and let's fail the whole step 3 failed, and let's just fail that use test case and go back to the overview of the test run. So this overview always reflects the real-time status. We don't need to export or kind of report this externally anywhere. This is just the status that we're doing. So so that's sort of very easy, and we can also import these tests into Excel sheet if we want to conduct the testing somewhat offline. So we can do the whole thing in Excel format offline, and then bring back the results to Polarion, and then the plan gets updated according to the results. We also see that here that we failed one of the tests. We see that there's a defect here, so it was automatically created based on the failed test case. So it goes towards the defect and issue management process that's not in the coverage today. So you're coming to the end of the short demo. Just to have the last topic, the overall status reporting, which is just kind of looking at the reports and seeing what we have done. In this example, we have collected some of the most important reports here on the project homepage. So this is kind of the project dashboard now. We see a Gantt chart of the plans that we have here, their progress reflected in real time. We see the sprints that we have planned under the product release 1. We see the timelines here. Then we can have some statistics. In this case, we have just pie charts of the different requirement statuses, and then a defect report or summary showing that, okay, we created a new defect here just a minute ago, and reflecting the trend charts show the change here. And this is probably one of the most important and interesting reports that you can pull out from Polarion, this traceability matrix. For example, in this case, we have a very complete traceability over this project, showing the stakeholder requirements or customer requirements here on the left-hand side, showing the refining software features and other requirements here in the middle, their statuses, and here on the right-hand side, test cases that have been linked, either verifying, for example, this verifies this software feature here, and while this validation case validates this customer requirement. And we see the results here now from the latest test result that has been reported. We can also have sort of trend charts over the results if you want to have that. But this basically brings it all together and all gives a very good overview of the real-time status where we really are. Yeah. So that's basically everything that I wanted to include in this quick demo. Just to go back to the some reflections and conclusions, what we saw, and reflecting also to the introduction part, we saw that we think that tools, features, and capabilities can really offer some input for you, how it's possible to support your processes. But still, we encourage you to think of your goals and purposes for the processes. So not going kind of tool first, but thinking of your needs first. We also saw that this Polarion Live Doc can make a difference, because in that way you don't have to have separate specification documents lying around in different formats. You can really combine the actual objects and the documents, and you can structure the information for the product content dimension. Plus you can manage still the doing dimension as well, as we saw in the planning. And it also facilitates collaboration in many ways, because it's so easy to use a document interface. So we saw that we can connect different levels, engineering disciplines and process areas together. How and why? The reason is that we have the right features to support the processes and different methodologies. And this eases finding information and relations, driving further work, working parallel, not just having to wait different documents to be published, but just go on with the different objects as they are already approved. And this also means that we can have the big picture and have the real-time status available for us. About regulatory compliance, we didn't talk very much about that today, but it's a very we saw the traceability, which is really important. We saw that there's a full history for audit trail, but you can really define a control workflow and support that with electronic signatures to have a, for example, FDA approved process on Polarion. And you have the reporting capability to export all the information that the audits and external partners need, and we have the process coverage. For example, you can do risk management with Polarion and connect those risks to requirements. Yeah, and I think this really comes down to helping you to focus on your work, and in the end it saves your effort and accelerates the development cycle. Thank you for your time and listening. I would now like to hand it over to Peter for some questions and answers.
Okay, so thank you, Pasi, for that presentation and demonstration. So during the session, we have received a few questions, and let me try to answer some of these. One is has to do with project or process templates in Polarion, and if there are templates supported sort of out of the box. So the answer there would be yes. So Polarion comes with many different templates out of the box. So we have templates for agile development, as you've seen a little bit from today, but also from classic systems engineering. We also have specific templates for industries such as automotive, medical, aerospace and defense, and transportation. So all of these templates, they come with process guidance, they come with specific work item types, example specifications, and so on. Basically things to help with quickly starting up new development projects and as a basis for your own customizations down the road.
Yeah.
So,
may I, Peter, also comment on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a very good question because we also have a recent case where we have a customer. We have developed our own templates on top of Polarion. We have a viewpoint of making them as simple as possible. We have one for the regulated industries like medical or automotive. And one of our customers said that they really saved weeks of time. They didn't have to think everything from scratch, so they could just take our the ideas and processes and do some minor modifications on those and just start their work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
There's another one here. Is it possible to limit the access so that the customer only sees their customer requirements but nothing else? Yeah, so Polarion uses permissions and roles and access rights to determine what a user can and cannot see or do in the system. So it's certainly possible to limit visibility for a particular customer, yes. Then we have another one. Can requirements from standards be managed as well as reused for different products? Is this something you could cover, Pasi?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was about reuse and standards.
Yes.
Yeah, well, basically, what we didn't cover today was that there are a lot of possibilities and mechanisms of reusing information in Polarion. It's made for that, and you can apply that for standards, for example, that get if you have some standards that you need to fulfill. It's a good idea to have a library of your requirements derived based on the standards, and then apply that sort of basic set of requirements for different products or projects that you do. Yeah, that's quite often what our customers are doing.
Thank you. Another question here would be, how does Polarion fit into a continuous integration landscape? Well, as an ALM tool, Polarion sits sort of in the middle of the continuous integration landscape. So it integrates with continuous integration tools such as Jenkins, source control tools like Git, Subversion, and a few others. So this means we have basically end-to-end traceability from high-level requirements all the way down to the source code. And Polarion can also pull any unit tests that are being performed as part of the build process back into Polarion as either new or updated test cases.
Yeah, may I comment that that was something
Yes.
that I didn't include in the demo in the verification part. It's quite often that the companies use some automated testing tools, especially for the software part, and it's very possible that they just import the test cases and results from the automatic testing tools into Polarion, and that way they get a full picture of the testing status, both manual and automatic. Yeah. At the same time, it's kind of important to realize that Polarion is not an automatic testing tool. It's sort of managing those, but not actually executing the tests themselves.
Okay, thank you. So that's kind of overlapping the next the next question I have here.
Oh,
so where can I find information about integrations to Polarion? So I'm interested in integrations of automated testing tools. So maybe I can answer that one. So we have what we call the extensions portal available at extensions.polarion.com. So that's extensions.polarion.com. So this is where we publish available integrations to, for example, automated testing tools or modeling tools. And this is also the place where you can find customized reports that you can download and use, and much, much more. So it's worth a visit. There was another one here. It's a question about the licensing options. What it looks like, and I can say that we do have what we call concurrent or floating option, where people share sort of a pool of licenses, and there's also named licenses for particular users. So these licenses could be of a specific type. It could be for requirements management only, or it could be for quality assurance only, or perhaps for the complete ALM solution. So these types will sort of unlock certain capabilities in the tool. And on top of that, we also offer a SaaS, software as a service option, as an annual subscription model. Okay. Is there a way to evaluate Polarion? So absolutely. If you're interested in evaluating Polarion, you can either download and install the product, which is very simple, or you can use the cloud option. So I suggest you use the contact information on the slide that you're looking at, and we will help you get access to the product. Okay, so we are reaching the end of our 60 minutes, and we need to conclude the webinar. If you have any further questions or did not get your specific questions answered today, don't hesitate to contact us. So I would like to thank Pasi for the presentation and demonstration, and all the participants for your time. So have a good day.